Hello there guys, Daniel Childs back here again. Hope you're doing really well on this Friday. This is going to be a news show looking at Chelsea transfer updates. We're going to be talking about Liam Delap, Dean Huijsen and also Gittens, Jamie Gittens from Borussia Dortmund. Three big names, three names that have been linked to Chelsea pretty consistently, and going through the latest news and reports around their potential arrivals at Stamford Bridge this summer. If you like the sound of that, please like, subscribe, share this video or podcast around with friends. You can listen to the show on your favorite podcast platform, whether that be Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your pods. Or, of course, if you are watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button as well. So, I think the best place to start, given we are facing Ipswich on Sunday, is Liam Delap. He has been a name we've talked about a lot so far in 2025, and one that I'm sure will continue to be heavily linked with Chelsea. Whether he joins or not is, of course, the big question. But it has kind of blown up this week, and I wrote a piece on my Substack. Just to shout out my Substack, you can go over there, subscribe for free, or become a paid subscriber for £4 a month, basically the cost of a coffee, to support the Substack and also my show and all of that good stuff. There'll be paid articles on there, but today's one for Liam Delap is free, so you can go and check it out. Link in the description box below, where I talk a lot about Liam Delap, and we probably will do a show extensively on Liam Delap at some point on why I think he would be a good move for Chelsea. But this came out from The Guardian, basically regarding his release clause that is as low as 30 million if that is, and I say if, but eventuality, basically, it's kind of known that Ipswich will be relegated from the Premier League back to the Championship. He's obviously scored 12 goals in 33 appearances for Ipswich this season, but we know that there are a number of clubs, not just Chelsea, interested in Delap from Ipswich. And we also know via The Athletic, it's not just Premier League clubs. So Chelsea and Man United, along with a number of other potential clubs, because you've got to think, in the current Premier League market, in the current Premier League financial landscape, 30 million is not that much, especially for a club like Chelsea. But even you look lower down the league, when clubs like West Ham are spending 40 million on Max Kilman last summer. Nowadays, that is a potential fee for a number of clubs. That doesn't mean the deal's going to happen. And, if Chelsea and Wolves are going for the same player, obviously Chelsea can offer a lot more. But it kind of shows you how ridiculously low this fee is for a talent of this potential. But we know even in Europe, Bayern Munich is a possible destination. Inter Milan have been linked as well, and the potential of wages there as well that we'll get back to. In terms of numbers, he has the second highest number of carries among strikers in the Premier League this season at 72. His average carry distance of 7.3 metres is the highest of any centre forward in the league. Even when he does not score, this is from the Athletic piece, his combative streak makes him such a difficult opponent that creates space for others. I think there are so many reasons and pros for signing Liam Delap. That fee is so stupendously low. To pay 30 million to sign a striker off the back of a season where he has scored 10 plus goals is mad. When you factor in recent years, and I did in my piece, Kai Havertz in his final year at Chelsea, I think scored 9 or 10 Premier League goals for Chelsea, maybe just over that, and he cost Arsenal 65 million last summer. Not a low scoring season for him, but Dominic Solanke, for instance, from Bournemouth to Spurs, that was around 60 million. Chelsea spent 45 million on Joao Felix from Atletico Madrid. So for comparison there, anyone moaning about the fee here, I really don't know what you're moaning about. This is just ridiculously low for someone who has produced like he has, and there's no getting around it. And we'll talk about this in my preview that I'm going to upload tomorrow for the Ipswich game. The team he is doing this in has been so poor, destined for relegation, and he's putting up numbers that have to be respected, have to be commended, and I think shows you why so many potential big clubs are looking at him as a potential signing for them this summer. I love his frame. I think physically he's very commanding. Chelsea felt the effects of that in the December game at Portman Road. The goal scoring, the ball striking ability, his ability on the counter-attack to lead from the front, to use his pace and speed and directness to really hurt defences. He has so many good attributes. I think the big concern for me is Chelsea, as usual, and their ability to get this deal over the line if they are front of the queue. Best case scenario, Chelsea get Champions League football. Simon Phillips reported that this week talks have reopened with Liam Delap. That's not surprising. We've known the long-term interest. I spoke about this in the January window a lot. This has been a name that's been linked to Chelsea even just after the summer. So long-standing interest. He has a Manchester City link, which I think kind of puts him in the firing line or kind of the wheelhouse where you could see him signing for Chelsea. We've signed Tosin, we've signed Cole Palmer, we've signed Romeo Lavia, we've appointed Enzo Maresca as head coach, we've got Joe Shields in our recruitment team. All of those things really match up, don't they? It's not that other clubs don't have those links, it's just Chelsea and previous Man City, alumni, whether that be through the academy or coaching. We know all of this already. Delap and Palmer have a relationship, so you could see them reuniting at Stamford Bridge. And there also is the reality of timeline-wise, Chelsea want to get some players in before the Club World Cup. Chelsea and Manchester City have been given a special kind of transfer window before that Club World Cup. So it'd be preferable to have Delap ready when Chelsea go out to the States to compete in that tournament. So for me, I really like the look of Delap. That doesn't mean our striker search and our striker business has to end there. But I think, simple question, does Delap make our striking option stronger? I think yes. I think in terms of the potential there for him to get better, to be a focal point, to be a rotational option who can compete with Nicholas Jackson next season. I spoke recently about Jackson even moving out wide, which we know he can do, and keeping Jackson in the team. Please get this deal done. Let's not have another Elise. The fear is that just because Chelsea have put a lot of groundwork in under this current sporting director regime does not mean the deal is a foregone conclusion, because the way they fumbled the Elise deal last summer kind of proves it, doesn't it? So, and that wasn't ridiculously higher in terms of fee or kind of a similar situation. Premier League player, highly rated, previous connection to the club or people within the club. Hopefully this can get done, but I do think Champions League football may still have a defining impact on this. But if it's in the Premier League, if it's Chelsea and Manchester United, you still think Chelsea should be able to offer a lot more in that sense of you coming in as a big player, as you coming in as someone playing at least some form of European football, and hopefully that will be enough. Another name that I know excites a lot of people is obviously Dean Huijsen, who has had a really, really good season at Bournemouth, and the level of club, the calibre of club he's being linked to kind of summarises how impressive he's been for Bournemouth. Even Real Madrid being talked up as a potential destination for him this summer. David Ornstein reporting that Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle, Tottenham have all met with his representatives ahead of decision being made on the 19-year-old centre-back's future. The Bournemouth player wants swift outcome. Release clause apparently is around 50 million. So this is a name that has been talked up a lot, has obviously performed well to a high calibre in the Premier League. So like Liam Delap, you've got evidence of him working well in the Premier League already. You don't need to kind of theorise how is his ability and skill set going to transfer to the English game. We've seen it in action this season. He's clearly a great talent. There's no two ways about it. He's playing, I think he's already playing international football as well. So it's not, this is not someone who is raw and has no evidence behind him whatsoever. We're talking about players who at the very least have played top level English senior football, and you can see why so many clubs are interested. This one for me is a little bit more complex, purely because what I am desiring from Chelsea this summer is the thing I've been desiring from them for quite a while now, is experience, is a bit of wisdom, is an older type of player. And I think centre-back is where I'm looking at, usually. We saw it with Thiago Silva, we've seen it lots in football, right, where you get a leader, a wise player to come in and very much be the captain of that group, or kind of someone that younger defenders can look up to. Dean Huijsen on his own has some very good attributes, has some very good things that you could see Chelsea snapping him up at this point of his career could be of great benefit to Chelsea. And again, is 50 million the most ridiculous fee? It's about 20 or so million cheaper than what we paid for Wesley Fofana, who's barely played for Chelsea because of his injury record. It's just, I look at Josh Achimpong, who obviously the club did so much to keep, who could play centre back, could play right back. We saw him on Thursday play at centre midfield. Levi Colwell. If you keep Trevor Chalobah, we'll see what happens with Fofana. But that group and that young group of defenders, and we've got Sarr coming in from Strasbourg in the summer too, they need an older head, I think, to lean on and to learn from. That's what this group needs. I really don't think this group needs another young player who probably does need an older head, a wiser head, a winning mentality. That's what I want to see. And my concern is, again, is if you're signing Delap up top and that's kind of the only serious investment you make from a striker, you don't sign anyone else. And then central midfield, you bring in anyone there. You've got Andre Santos returning. You've got Leslie Ugochukwu, Masugo obviously from Sporting Lisbon. There's lots of names there. And then at centre-back, if you're buying young as well, where is that experience coming from? And yes, I know people will point out in the comments, this is not how Chelsea operate. But to me, I just think if you want to improve as a club, there's just a reality. You need a balance within the group. You need to bring in some experience. And I think that naturally comes at centre-back. And it's something I've argued a lot before, but why do Chelsea constantly have to externally look elsewhere for players they could develop in-house that internally could give them a lot? And Josh Achipom is kind of the prime example here for me in the current Chelsea squad. You did a lot to avoid him going to, say, Bayern Munich or leaving the club. You got him on that new contract. Now's the time to develop him and see if he could become, in kind of reputation, where Dean Huijsen is in a year's time. I don't see the big problem in missing out on a player like Dean Huijsen. That's not to say Dean Huijsen couldn't turn out to be an amazing defender. I'm talking more here about squad composition, balance, mentality, and kind of age within the group and experience within the group. And what I think that defence really needs is an older head. And obviously Dean Huijsen, for whatever his talent is, and I'm not denying it, is obviously not going to bring at this point. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know in the comments below. The other player, before we wrap up, is obviously Jamie Gittens, a wide player from Borussia Dortmund that also has been linked to Chelsea pretty much from January. He was within the names of, say, Garnacho when he was being linked to Chelsea in that winter window. And Florian Plettenberg, well-known reporter for Sky Sports in Germany, reporting that Gittens wants to leave Dortmund this summer and Dortmund themselves have been informed on his desire to move, and internally it's the expectation that he will leave the club. Bayern apparently are still looking at Gittens, and they have him on their list, but he also has a market in England, and a return to the Premier League appeals to him. Just looking at his numbers, just an overview of his numbers: 8 goals in the Bundesliga this year for Dortmund, 3 assists. He started 19 games, 28 appearances all round. If you look at his kind of map of what he's kind of most dominant in his skill set, in terms of goals and shot attempts, he is a very attack-minded player. Just looking at FB Ref, he's in the 90 percentile for progressive carries, successful take-ons, touches in the attacking penalty area, and also non-penalty goals and shots total 77%. So very talented wide player, very young, very much fills the quota of the type of player Chelsea would be looking to sign. And I think, when you're signing players from Dortmund, that's a high caliber club. Even if they're not winning the Bundesliga and winning major titles, they're playing Champions League football every single year. They have a great track record for developing high caliber players who then make moves to bigger clubs and really develop. There's been so many of those in recent years. And obviously we know from reports that Chelsea are strongly looking at that wide, especially the left side of Chelsea's attack, for a potential option that they're going to go in for this summer. I think it's another one of those that I chalk up as realistic, as I could see happening. That left wide area is still up for grabs. It really is. At the moment, I couldn't tell you who's going to be starting there next year. Jadon Sancho, I think, probably should be back to Manchester United. I don't think it's worth persisting with him. We have no idea what's going on with Mykhailo Mudryk. Pedro Neto can play there, yes. Even, Cole Palmer could potentially play there, as he has done earlier in his career. But obviously, Palmer is seen as more of a central attacking player. And, Tyreek George obviously scoring his first Chelsea goal last night. I'd like to see him get a bit more development. He's not the ready-made player right now, but I'd love to see him get more Premier League opportunities under Enzo Maresca. And we could even see Nicholas Jackson move out wide to a left position if needed. But, if you're going to make a big commitment in that area over the summer, we know Esteval is someone who's going to be playing off the right most likely. Kendry Pires is being looked more as kind of an attacking midfielder rather than a winger. So, yeah, a lot's open and up for grabs there. Listen, there are bigger names out there. And I think the one that stands out head and shoulders above everyone, I would genuinely get me excited, but I just can't see Chelsea doing it given the finances involved, is Nico Williams. I think Nico Williams just smells like the superstar I think would be such a huge get for Chelsea, and I think would really be a signal of intent. But listen, you have to get Champions League football to even contemplate signing that player. Jamie Gittens, maybe not. Maybe it's weird to say, whether that at this point, whether Gittens, but Gittens is playing for Borussia Dortmund, so there's a level already there. He's playing in the Champions League, so you probably want to maintain Champions League level football. But listen, I'd rather Gittens than Garnacho. We should be going nowhere close to Garnacho again, anywhere close. It's absurd we even were looking at him in the window. But, it kind of again speaks to Chelsea's chaotic and confusing, baffling transfer strategy where, why are you looking at Garnacho and Gittens? Why are you looking at certain players that don't seem to mesh together or kind of are even close in terms of end products and what they produce on a weekly basis? But Gittens is, I think, definitely a player that excites more people. And listen, again, if we look at evidence rather than what we'd like to happen, Gittens, Delap, Huijsen, these are all names that fit the mould and category of players that Chelsea have recently bought. I think the good thing about all three of these names, if I'm going to say positive, is all of them are playing top flight football consistently. All of them are producing to some extent and quite impressively. All of them are important players for their teams as well. These are not raw players who have never had any exposure, never had any importance in their team yet, and are going to take a lot of seasoning to get better. I think that's the one positive about all three of these players that we've talked about today, rather than bringing in players who've barely had any senior football and they're going to take a lot to get better. So you'd hope that Gittens, Huijsen or Delap, any of those three could walk into Chelsea currently. And I'm not saying set the world alight, but at the very least have a mindset, have an experience and have a confidence that they could affect things pretty quickly, which I think is good. Obviously what you want to see this summer. So those are my thoughts today on the three players we spoke about. Let me know your thoughts on everything I said in the comments below. Agree, disagree. Please like, subscribe if you're on YouTube, share the video around with friends. Give me your thoughts in the comments. And if you're listening on the podcast, please do give us a positive rating review. It really helps the show out. Check out my Substack. Follow me across on socials at SonOfChelsea. And I will see you again very soon. All the best.